everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, we meet here on Zoom to connect, inspire, and create with the help of a guest that shares their images, stories of inspiration, and some tips to help you improve your photography portfolio. The schedule for our upcoming presentations is on my website at lindanickell.com. And if you're in the Central Texas area, take a look at the event that is listed for Saturday, March 19th, because the Happiness Hour will be an in-person, all-day event at the Georgetown, Texas Photography Festival. Under Happiness Hour, you'll find the links to previous sessions on my YouTube channel. Tonight's guest is Vince Maidens. Vince is a Canadian wildlife photographer who is joining us from the United Kingdom this evening. Vince's work has been featured by National Geographic, Smithsonian, and the BBC. He's also an ambassador for F-Stop and Gura bags. In tonight's presentation, all about owls, Vince will talk about how he photographs these beautiful raptors without baiting and adhering to ethical practices to not disturb or harass them to get that perfect shot. You can see more of Vince's work on Instagram at Vince Maidens and on his website at vincemaidensphotography.com. So welcome to the Happiness Hour, Vince.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me, Linda.
Oh gosh, we're going to have to confess. We're going to have to confess.
Okay.
So our friendship kind of came through Instagram.
Yeah.
I think I started stalking your page because I had never seen, I stalked you. I'd never seen a snowy owl. I didn't know what such a thing was. And your page was full of them. And I just got drawn into them. And then because you're wordy and you're funny and your captions kept me interested and entertained. And I actually went today through my Instagram messages to see how far back our messages went. And they go back as far as March 2017.
March 2017. Well, there you go.
I know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's a long time. And what's kind of funny is that we are just now seeing each other face to face. And
it's bizarre.
It is very bizarre. I feel like I've known you for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and very good, deep conversations too, right? So it's not been just, like and walk away. It's been actual friendship. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's so, Instagram is one of those places that and I say this all the time, I connect with people and I can go anywhere just through that Instagram app. I can see places, I learn things from people that I may never ever meet, but it's just been a true gift. So with that, I gave you I just kind of went off the top of just a little bit of an introduction. So tell us what I missed.
Oh, God.
Tell us your
secret.
secret.
Trouble can I get myself into? Well, geez, I've been shooting snowies for, I guess this will be my 27th year.
God, you're old.
Dating it. I know, totally. Like, especially now. And so, yeah, I started with film way back when. My dad was a medium format photographer. So he dragged me out into the field all the time as a kid, not shooting snowies. He was like in the trees and stumps. It's just real boring crap. But so I'm really surprised I ever kept up with it because I hated it at first. But then, he gave me a book on the zone theory at, I don't remember what age, but it was quite young. And said, just read this and you'll understand it if you ever try it later. So I did, and there we are. So a lot of Ansel Adams theory and study of his photos when I was a kid. And just from there on, got into the birds, right? Because they were outside my door, literally. And, I thought, wow, these are really pretty birds. And I don't know if anybody even knows these things are around. And they didn't at the time when I started shooting. There was nobody interested in snowy owls, really. I mean, now it's just I can't keep people off properties in my area. So, it went from being, very, very niche species to interact with to something that everybody's got a photo of now, which is fine. I mean, it's great. It's just trying to make sure that people are doing it respectfully and remembering that it's a live creature, right? And it deserves its space and it deserves its respect. And that's one of the things I think we're starting to lose a lot in photography, is that people are willing to take a lot of shortcuts in the process to get that killer shot, literally killer shot. And not thinking about what they're actually doing and what they're funding, right? There's a lot of people making money with workshops, and they end up taking shortcuts to get the customers to get the shots, right? So for me, I won't do snowy owl workshops just because I can't guarantee people the images, right? You have to put a lot of time in. Like Rachel's been there, out there with all the time, and she knows that you're there for the day. You might get 2 or 3 liftoffs. That's about it, right? You might not see anything. So you can't guarantee people that they're going to get flight shots unless you're throwing food, right? That's the only way it works. With snowies, at least, and great grays, they're more sedentary birds. Like barn owls and short-eared owls, I'm like over here, are incredible. I mean, they just fly. Like we've been out and seen 40 birds at once in the sky, and you don't even know where to shoot, right? It's just constant bombardment of owls. So those species, I feel much more apt to say, okay, I would take people out and show them how to do it, and put them in the position to get the right shots, the kind of shots that they might want. And I feel comfortable with that because it's just natural that they're out hunting. Snowies don't hunt unless they actually see something, right? They're not interested in scouring around the world like a short-eared owl, right? They want to see something in the snow moving around, and if they see it, they'll kill it. That's the way they do it. For me, I end up spending a lot of time sitting there with a dove feeder behind me. I've been perfectly honest about how it happens. Snowy owls will take doves in the winter. They're not above taking an easy bird out of the sky. They'll take ducks, they'll take muskrats, they'll take just a lot of bigger species because they are one of the largest owls in the world. And so me, sitting in front of a dove feeder, you're bound to get some incoming shots. And it just takes time, right? You just sit there and wait it out and hope for the best. And you also get to know their patterns. At the start of the year, you get nothing. The end of November is when they usually come into my area, and it takes a few weeks to get their patterns down. If you watch them all the time, you get to know what times of day they start to hunt. If the weather's coming in, you'll know that they'll start hunting a little earlier. You'll see a snow squall coming in, and they'll know the squall's coming in. They'll know they'll have to start to look for food a lot more earnestly than they do if it's a nicer day. So you get to know those patterns. They like the same spots all the time. They will come right to the same post on a fence pretty much all the time. Once they establish that it's their territory, so you pick up these little nuances of the bird after many years of failure, right? So I took terrible photos for many, many years. And then I just started thinking, okay, I'm a scientist. Let's think about how this actually works. Make notes, keep an eye on what they're doing, look at patterns, and then work from there, right? And then you start to understand what the species is doing. And then year over year, you find that they're all different birds that come in. You never get the same ones twice, because one of the people in the area is one of the banders for the university. And he comes out and catalogs all the birds that come in that he can get. And we've never seen one that's been there twice.
Wow.
So you're always getting different birds, and people always, some of the local farmers, you just tell them it's the same bird, so they don't mind you coming on the lawn. They don't care, right? They're farmers, and you go visit them and Bertha's back this year, Big Mama's back this year, right? Oh yeah, Big Mama's back. Sure, it's the same bird. And they don't know any different. So you just let them go on because they like to tell their friends, they get their photos, and they want to share in the experience with the photography people, right? That they like on the property. So, part of being respectful to the bird is being respectful to the property owners as well. One of the things that I see in my old area is, people come up from the city, they see a snowy owl, it's in an open field. They don't realize that there's a crop been planted in that field for the next season come fall, and it's covered in snow right now. But if you're walking on that property, you are potentially causing damage to that farmer's livelihood in the next year. So, don't trespass on farmers' properties unless you have specific permission. And I can't stress that enough, because it makes them nuts, and they will call the police and ruin your entire day. Mm-hmm. It's just not worth it for a photo, right? So you just have to be clear on what your ethics are when you get out there, how you want to control your environment when you're out there. And by that, I mean is how you set up, right? Be minimal. Don't bring a lot of kit and nonsense with you, right? Just get out there and sit it out. I mean, wear the appropriate clothing, because it's going to be cold. It's going to be terrible weather. It's going to be muddy. You'll be covered in vole and mouse bits, bird poo, whatever. I've had it all on me basically at this point. But you have to invest the time.
So I know the answer to this, but I'm going to get you to tell everybody else your thoughts on. You talked about clothing. Are you donning the camouflage?
I know where you're going. Never.
Okay.
Never. The only camo I have is on my lenses, and that's just because you can't really. The plain lens coats look terrible, so you got to have something. I always get digital camo. That's all I ever do. And no, I don't wear camo. I've never lost a shot to an owl for not being in the way, right? I mean, they know you're there. They have incredible vision. They don't smell you. You're not fooling them. But you see, the camo squad come out there all fully loaded up with camo, like they're going into war, and there's no purpose for it. You just look like an asshole, basically. Pardon my French. No offense to people out there that all have your camo. I'm sure there's some lovely people in the crowd, but basically, I just think you're. Anyhow, yeah, I don't wear camo. No, I wear. I like Fjallraven. I like a nice jaunty Fjallraven blue jacket and whatever trousers I'm wearing for the day.
Well, there will be a day when you and I shoot together, so I will be the girl in the pink camo. So just want to.
No, well, see that's not even camo, though, is it? Really?
Sure it is. Sure it is.
Okay.
All right, throw up some pictures. Let's get to the meat of it.
I'm in York, in the UK right now, and if you know any of the Harry Potter stuff, there's a place called Diagon Alley, and it's basically based off of a street in York called the Shambles, and it's an incredible street. If you've seen the movie, it looks pretty much like that, and old weird shaped buildings because they weren't made when there was any kind of building code, and it's all kind of, but it's stunning street, and there's I'd have to ask, but I think there's 3 Harry Potter stores on there. You can buy your wands and brooms and potions, and of course your no lack of snowy owls. So you can buy your Hedwig here anywhere which way you want. So that is not Hedwig. I've had, I think every post I've ever posted on Instagram, somebody's come in and said, "Oh, this is Hedwig," and I immediately delete those comments. I don't care who it is. And I know there's going to be some smart ass in this crowd now. Next time I post, they're going to come in and say it's Hedwig, and we're going to have trouble. But anyhow, yes, it's this is not Hedwig, but this is one of my favorite snowy owls from 2017, and that was shot out of my living room window. Actually, I've got several actually really easy shots out of my living room window. So yeah, I quite like this photo. It was a bit of a mist coming off the ground, and yeah, it was just a slight mist coming out of the ground from a quick thaw, and the wind was blowing around, and she just popped up. There was a funny moment where she went down, and I captured that as well. And she lifted up. She was going after a dove, funny enough. And there was somebody that commented on, I posted the photo of it launching too, and she's ducked down, and her eyes are big because they have big eyes and they look at things. And somebody posted way back when saying, oh, it looks stressed. Right? Just, that's one of the things that drives me nuts is the folks that are self-proclaimed experts in owls. Like, I've spent a lot of time with owls, like 27 years, and I don't consider myself an expert. I just have a lot of research on them. I'm not an expert. I don't have a zoology degree. It's not my degree. And I'm not a raptorologist, whatever. I think that's the actual term, but never mind. And so I know plenty about snowy behavior, but I'm not an expert. But I could tell. I was quite a few feet away inside. The bird couldn't see anything but the lens, and there was no way I was causing it any stress. So you get a lot of people commenting on trying to anthropomorphize birds and all animals, it seems like right now, by trying to guess what they're feeling. And they're complex creatures, but they have basic fight or flight mentality, right? If they're upset about something, they will leave. You don't want to cause them to be upset, because that is calories that they don't need to burn, right? Their entire life is a struggle for survival and putting food in their faces, right? That's what they do in procreating. That's their life. I mean, let's face it. And if you flush them to get them to fly, and there's no food in their path, then you're wasting calories that they're going to have to supplement later. Or, I've never gone up and hugged one. I've touched them before when they've been banded. And you can't tell what their nutrition level is, right? So why risk causing them stress? So anybody who ever says, "Oh, you stress that bird," is a bit odd, I always find, because they don't know the situation, and if they did know the situation, they would not know it was stress. But anyhow, I'll motor along here. So I just found this image a couple of weeks back when I was back in Canada. I pulled some old cards out of a box, because I don't usually process much right after I shoot it, because this time of year, you get inundated with it immediately with people saying, "Oh, where is that bird?" Right? And anybody knows me knows where I live. Like Rachel knows exactly where that is. And I guess in 2015, I took an entire season of sunset shots that I never ever processed. So I've got this several hundred shot card, maybe 1,000 shots, of this one owl basically launching off that fence in various stages of sunset. And this one I quite liked. This is an example of knowing where the bird's going to be, right? I knew where to sit. I knew where she was coming from, because she always flew the same pattern every day. And I knew that she would come to that corner piece in the fence, because that was her best vantage point for looking out towards the back, which is a barn, or towards the road and the other field across the way. So she came in. Behind me is a dove feeder. Right now, you can't see it obviously because I'm shooting at her, but she came in, and as they slow down, put the air brakes on, they put their wings up in that fashion and land. You can also see a little bit of snow that she's knocked off the top of the post, because that was her first time in for the day. But yeah, I just ended up trying something a little different, right? Every year, instead of just going out there and bashing out the same snowy shots of flying sideways or something like that, which is fine. I mean, if you've never shot them, it's fine. But if you have years of photos of the same species, you got to start playing around and trying something a little different. Like not just getting perfect daylight shots. Go for something different. Try the whole thing with photography is it's a creative, communicative way of expressing yourself, right? And in this case, I wanted to try something a little different with some backlit. I mean, the sun's basically towards her back to the left, if you're looking at which we are, to the left of her at that time. So you can see it coming through the wings a bit. And it's reflecting a bit off the snow in front of her, blowing it back at her to give it a little bit of light in the eyes. I haven't really processed this hardly at all. So it's just kind of as it was. And it's kind of rare that we'd get these. Usually on a really, really cold day will you get a sunset like this. So where everything kind of goes really orange as opposed to just golden or a blue color. So it was pretty cool to find this card and say, wow, I actually should have processed this a long time ago, because I could have entered it in some contests that are no longer viable because of the age. But here we are, right? It works for this situation, I think, as a talking point. We have to get out there and try. Your camera has multiple settings. You can change them at will. Why not, right? Unless you're out there, this is going to be your only time you're going to get this type of image. And just try things, right? It doesn't hurt to make mistakes. And I can tell you the few frames before this one, because it wasn't on a camera with an eye focus, were not good. So I just got lucky on this. You get, what you're shooting at, you try to get it as bang on as possible, and you just get those lucky shots. So
you touched on it just a hair. Let me ask, because I know we're going to get these questions. How much processing do you do on your images?
Oh, I'm going to get to that.
Or are you?
Okay. I'll tell you this. I don't do a lot. And there's a couple of reasons why. I like to get it right in camera as best as possible, just because as a photographer, I think there's a matter of pride to call yourself a photographer as opposed to a Photoshop artist, which is nothing wrong with it either. I mean, good on you if you can do it. I'm not that great in Photoshop. So I try to do the best I can in camera, so I don't have to waste time later on doing a lot of editing. That said, if it's more than 10 minutes on an image, I would just delete it. I'm just like that. I don't like to spend a lot of time. Like the new Lightroom, I quite like the new masking features, because that makes things a little bit quicker to do, just to boost some of the highlights or reduce some of the highlights and spots. Other than that, I don't do a lot. I try not to. I will show you an image where I just went nuts. And I'm going to talk about that, because there's just all of a sudden on Instagram, especially because that's where I see a lot of images anymore. It's just ridiculous the amount of processing people are putting into things. It doesn't even look real anymore. And I'll show you one of those. Whenever you tell me to move ahead, Linda, I'll do it.
You go right ahead.
Okay. And here it is. So this is a short ERL I shot sometime last year. How do I so that background is basically brown, and I went and I masked the bird, and then I inverted it, and I just went mad with the saturation and the hues to make that fiery mess that you see behind me. And honestly, I posted it and people loved it, and I deleted it after, because I said I was going to delete it afterwards. This is just an experiment to see how crappy the Instagram algorithms become, because it's rewarding people that are very good with Photoshop. Let's just put it that way. And just, I mean, I've seen some people are posting, cats in Africa with like bright yellow eyes. It's just, come on, people, stop with this nonsense. It doesn't look good, and it's going to give people an idea that is what's required to make a proper image. I mean, it just doesn't portray that in real life. So why make it? Why claim it's a photograph at that point when it's actually become a piece of creative art? At least claim that it's that, and not not an actual photograph of a real situation, because it just becomes fake. And it always makes me question what else has been done to that image, what has been removed. For contests or Nat Geo or Smithsonian or anything like that, they require you to submit the raws. So if you submit the raws and say you've got, if you've baited, right, and the animal and the bird has got a mouse in it that it shouldn't have, some kind of store-bought thing or whatever, it's there, right? You can't edit that out without being disqualified, and it just removes your credibility as a photographer in the eyes of those major contests. And you probably, they say it's not biased at all, but I mean, you can guess those people that are judging will keep a record of who's submitting. If you make a short list, who's submitting images that have been doctored. So you can't submit those types of photos to contests. So that anything that's been completely edited, basically you're going to produce something that you can post on Instagram and be happy about, possibly, but you're not going to go any further. And if you're a serious wildlife photographer and you enjoy contests and you enjoy learning and you want feedback and critiques, you will start submitting to contests eventually, right? And you have to keep that in the back of your head, is that when I'm creating this image, what am I going to do with it? Am I just going to be happy and put it in the little square box on somebody's phone, or do I want to be, involved in this at a higher level? And wherever you are in that journey, great. I know, but just don't pigeonhole yourself into that box of, I've got a phone and it looks good on that phone and that one little aspect range that Instagram lets you have, right? Because I see so many photos just like that, which are bird filling frame, wings chopped off, ridiculous colors, unbelievably smooth and then sharpened and noise reduction. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I guess I'm just old now, and I don't go for that crap anymore, but it just doesn't make sense to me. So this image to me is garbage. As good as the bird looks, I just hate it. I should have actually put the original in there. I'll send it to you after, and you can do something with it if you want, to show the difference of what the actual real world looks like as opposed to this monstrosity that I've made. So I'll go on. So that's for part of processing. I just can't stand it. So this is from a few years ago as well. This is also 2016. This is two female snowy owls battling over territory, and this is blue hour, obviously, because of you can tell with the amount of blue in the image. I try really hard with white to get it right in camera, and the birds still have a little bit of tinge of blue in it. You just can't help it. At that time of day, it's going to be there. But that was a complete surprise to me. That one on the right is a far larger bird than the one on the left. She was actually sitting over in the snow, and that other one came in to challenge her. What you can't see over to the right, far, far away, is there's a little tiny male. I don't know if you know much about snowy owls, but they are sexually different size-wise than each other. So the females are massive, and the males are just little tiny guys, and they get bossed around by the women terribly. But hey, I can't relate to that at all. Anyhow, I'm gonna get killed. And so she came in from the left, challenged her on the right, and it was quite the 20-second battle. And I managed to capture this fairly clean shot of her coming in all talons out and her realizing that there was going to be a problem. The one on the right did win, but it was some pretty cool interaction. I rarely see two females battling it out. I usually see near the end of the season when they start to want to head back north. You'll see the males and females doing a little bit of talon play in the air. I have rarely captured it. It's a hard shot to get, and I've been around them a lot. So this was great because it was a complete surprise, because I saw the one on the right just sitting there. I saw her look over to the left. I saw the male look directly over to the left, and I thought, well, I better see what's coming, because eagles will sometimes come in and try to shoo them off or chase them or attack them. And sure enough, it was another female snowy coming right in for her. And this was early in the season, so the territories weren't firmly established yet. And this was a territorial battle. Plus, I think the male didn't hurt in the squabble, because I think the one on the left coming in might have assumed that they'd already paired up, which I've never seen that early. But it's owls. I don't know, right? It's they do what they do. So yeah, this is another situation of, knowing what you're looking at, watching the behavior, and then complete dumb luck, right? It's nature. You just don't know what you're going to get into. So you could be sitting there just shooting one bird sitting in the snow, and then 10 seconds later you've got incredible action. So don't be sitting there looking at the back of your camera. Just, you can do that when you get home, right? You can chimp all you want at home. Put the time and the effort into what you're seeing. And it's just part of the experience, right? You want to be in the moment, not staring at the back of a screen. We do that all day long as it is. So, get out there and enjoy your life with these birds and or whatever you're shooting, right?
On this particular image, Vince, someone,
Yes.
Pat, is asking, what's your light source?
Oh, my light source is always natural light. Always. I never use any flash at all. This was quite a ways away with, I think this was with an 800 5.6 at the time that I owned. Yeah, it would have been in that time frame. And it was quite a crop. And it was on, I'm going to guess that's probably 200 to 300 feet away. So it's a good distance. And no, it's just complete. Probably, if I recall, that was about 4:30 in the afternoon ish. So very, very close to sunset. And where the light was coming from was through a low mountain. So you get a really cool goldy hint to it most of the time. Around that time of day. So I can tell pretty much from what I'm looking at here is when that was shot. Couldn't tell you the exact date right now, because unless I looked at the file, but I'm going to guess December, January.
Yeah. The reason there's a couple of people chatting about it because they were curious if it was moonlit. But
no, I wish. That would be really cool. Yeah, that would be really cool. The only moon, I've never got any good moonlit shots of snowies, but I've seen them flying in the fairly dark, and they usually, so where I was, they would fly up to the bay, Georgian Bay, and come back with a duck. They used to like hunting ducks at night, and so you'd see them fly in with a duck back to the roosting area, some part of the snow that they wanted to land in their territory. And I'd often find like a mallard head or something in the morning somewhere. So I wished I would got those shots, but I never got a moonlit shot. That would be awesome. Yeah, I'm nowhere near that good. But that's just natural light. That's all I ever use.
Okay.
Can I move on?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Here's one. No, I know Rachel was there for this one. She probably doesn't remember, but she was there for this. This was near a cow barn that was put up a few years back, and there was a big bunch of berms that were plowed into surrounding it for collecting waste. It was a dairy farm, and they built up some pretty high snowbanks, so that I was sitting in a ditch. I'm pretty sure we were sitting in a ditch, Rach. And she had flown in. That was really fresh snow. It was very, very ploofy, as you can see. And she had flown in pretty close to us because there was a bunch of snow buntings that everybody was shooting to one side, and she'd come in because mice and voles love cow barns, right? There's food in the poo, there's food that the cows are eating on a regular basis, like the grains and whatnot that the mice and voles love, right? So there's no reason for them not to utilize that as a potential food source for themselves. You know, it's the age-old problem that farmers have had is rodents, and the snowies know it, right? And they're a tremendous population control for local vermin. And it got to the point where we went around to a lot of the farmers to ask them to stop using rodenticide because we've lost all our barn owls in Ontario, basically. I can't remember the last time I've seen one in the wild there. It's been many years. And, you know, every year we'd find a snowy or two that would end up dead somewhere along the season, right? So, you know, they live in places where it's all natural. You know, they live in the high north. They don't interact with people a lot. They don't interact with farms. So rodenticide's not part of their structure, and that they haven't learned to process poison like some other birds have, or rodents. Because most of the rodenticide now, the mice and voles, they doesn't even phase them, right? It's they've genetically changed to where it doesn't bother them, or they just kind of get a little sick and then they just move along. But the birds, it's a toxic body burden to them, and then they just die. So getting the farmers to realize that these guys are your natural pest control, and that the foxes that appear when you don't use the rodenticide deal with a lot of mice too, right? So you know, it's nice for the photographers, great that they're around, but it's also, I mean, you're just trying to conserve the birds too and the animals. That, you know, these poisons, they need to think that outside of their barn, right? It's the same with us, right? Whatever we put into the fields or put into our photography, right, it comes back to us. And you know, just trying to take care of the birds, it comes back to us as well. So anyhow, enough the preachy bits. But this bird had just landed in this nice ploofy snow, and you know, just sat there and said, "Okay, guys, it's coming in. It's going to land somewhere here. Keep an eye on it." And she came, and she looks right at you. They don't people. They don't really worry about people. They're not like great grays where they're completely curious about people and they'll just land on your head if you're sitting there. But they don't mind coming within reasonable distance. They don't come right up to you though, but they come, you know, 50 feet, 25 feet sometimes, depending if they're used to you. And this is probably, I don't know, 40 feet away. Like I shot this with a 100 to 400. It was so close. It's still cropped, but I mean, it still was pretty close. And yeah, natural light. It was a fairly dark day. It was pretty dismal. It's always dismal when Rachel comes out with me for some reason. But yeah, it was a pretty miserable day. And you know, you get that nice bluey steel gray kind of background, and then the white snow. It kind of really works, I think, with the yellow eyes. It makes it pop. So it's one of my favorites from that year. Anything on that, Linda, that you want to know?
I think you answered the question, but I'm going to see if maybe we can help Rose. Her question was, do owls scare off easily, or do they stay put if you're not approaching them, even if they see you?
Yeah, I mean, they're a very big bird. They're not worried about people. If I ever approach them, I don't look at them in the eye. I kind of come in sideways, sidestepping slowly, or turn my back towards them totally, just until they get used to me. And after a few weeks of that, they usually don't care because they know I'm not going to do anything. I'm not food to them, and I'm not going to kill them. So they're usually pretty good about that. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you get too close, they're going to fly away, right? So you just try to be sensible. If they start doing a lot of head turning as you're approaching, that means they're starting to get a little, I need to find an escape path. Most raptors will poop before they fly. So if you watch for that, they'll also do a tail bob. I don't have any photos or video of that, but it's a little tail bob that they will do with their rear end. if they're getting a little bit panicky and want to fly. So you can just judge by that, and try not to stare them down as you wander in. It's always a good game plan. But overall, they're a really stable bird.
Okay. So this is from Sharon. She lives in the eastern United States, which is Virginia. She says they have over 300 acres of woodland and part swamp next to them. She says, I hear the owls, but I've never seen them. Do you have any
That's right.
advice on how to find them without disturbing them?
Yeah. They're probably in your area. I'm going to guess barred and great horned owls. I don't know what else is down there. It's probably screech and something else. So yeah, they're pretty nocturnal. I do get some shots of great horns in daylight. It's usually fairly close to darkness or early in the morning, because they aren't really interested in doing much in the day. What I do is I try to pinpoint where the hooting is, and they're usually pretty like this time of year, February, early March is when they're breeding, so they're pretty loud. They're also very aggressive, so just be warned of that too. But go walking at night. That's the best thing to do, and then you get to find out where they're hanging out. They like rotten trees. They like abandoned crow's nests, I found, or abandoned eagle's nests if you can find them in your area, or hawk's nest. They're opportunists, right? They're not worried about taking over another bird's space. So they will be pretty communicative around this time of year. So go out at night. When you start to hear them, just make a beeline for that direction, and then when you hear them, stop and just try to triangulate. If it takes time, right? You can't shortcut it again, but you'll find them. It's tricky. Like here, we try to find tawny owls because they're my nemesis bird in the UK. I've seen a baby, and then I've seen an adult and another baby when it was really dark, and they're nearly invisible in the daytime. Like really tough. And anybody who's from the UK is probably thinking, "Oh, he's full of crap." But it's they're really hard for me to find, and the most common owl in the UK too. But they're really hard for me to find, and it's just going to take going out at night, listening where the hoots are, and try to find them. That's all it is. There's no shortcutting. I mean, you probably could get a FLIR device, an infrared camera, and strap it to your head and then wander around looking that way. That's possible, but that's a pretty big expenditure just to go find an owl. I think I'd rather just hunt around at night with a flashlight and hope for the best.
So Barbara's got a quick question. Do you know if great horned owls go back to the previous year's nest?
They might. I haven't put a lot of study into GHO in their mating habits and their breeding habits. I do know that we had one banded one year, and it did come back to the same box 2 years prior. 2 years after that, it didn't come back the next year, but it came back 2 years later. So yeah, they will come back to the same area. But the thing is, if that's a habitat that the owls like, and if it's not the same one, likely another bird will fill that space because it's got food source. If there's owls there, it has food source, and that's all they care about, right? They want to have a place that they can eat and have their brood and be safe. So if you can fit that criteria, you're pretty much going to have an owl. Which I'm not a real big fan of slow shutter speed, but I've become a lot more of a fan now that I've got the Canon R5 and I can actually achieve some shots. I think it was probably just the failure rate was just so high using non-mirrorless cameras. And now that I've switched to mirrorless, it's so much easier to get really outstanding slow shutter speed images. And this was like, I think 1/60th of a second. But what had just happened here is she was sitting on that post that you can see in the middle there, which is a corner. She loved to hit all the time, and it was just before dark. She used to fly off into a stand of trees behind me, and either sit on a low branch at night or on the ground. And that's what she did. So I saw that she was going to lift off. She pooped, as I said that they will do. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to get ready. And I followed her with the camera, and I got, I don't know, maybe 40 really god awful shots. And then this one, right? I think there's another wing position too that I managed to pull off. That was the one I don't approve of. But this is an approved wing position for me. So slow shutter speed, faces in focus, wings are blurred right out, background's okay. That's what I was going for that year. So don't be afraid to try things.
Yeah. Let's talk about wing position.
Sure.
So what's
we did mention that. Yes, we did.
Yeah. So
yeah. I have certain ones that I like the Batman position. I don't know if I put any in here that are Batmans. But you can get when they're all tucked up and like that, you can just see the eyes coming out of the wings. I really like those. I did probably 2 seasons of just that. If it wasn't that, I deleted it. I like a fully spread out wing and a slightly condensed wing. And I probably have some more pictures of some of the different wing positions in here somewhere. But I see so many of them all with just funny wing positions that just it's not appealing to me. If whatever you like, right? It's fine, but it's just not something that appeals to me. Some of the odder wings, like the fully flap up, I just never bother with those. It's just, or the fully flap down. It's just one of those positions. It's not a graceful looking image to me, but that's my opinion, right? You whatever you like, go ahead. It's your deal, right? But for me,
I like the curls where they kind of kind of drape over, kind of half Batman position, but half like, look at me. Yeah,
right. So I probably like that too. Yeah. It's just timing, right? You get to know, like you can see with a snowy, because they're not a fast bird, right? They're really quite lumbering, and because they're so huge. And that wingspan, that bird I think was almost 10 feet. It was a huge bird. You can tell where they are in their flap. Take that shot. It's not that hard. It just takes practice. You get to know exactly what you're looking at as you progress in your research and your study of the bird. But trying to do that with a kingfisher or something like that, that's a little bullet, is impossible. You just take the shot and hope for the best. That's all you can really ask for. But yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm sorry, you opened the door. You mentioned the R5. So Patty, and so if you're not a Canon user, we're going to let the R5 people talk for a second. But Patty wants to know, do you feel the R5 outdoes the 5D Mark IV, even when you're not doing slow shutter speed?
Yes, in every single way. The 5D Mark IV is a beautiful camera. You can take some stunning images with that. The thing I found with the R5 is having the eye tracking gives me the ability to do in-camera composition I couldn't have even thought of before, right? Because yes, you can manually move that joystick around and move this focal point onto the bird, but once they move, what do? Right? You got to drastically move that thumb and hope for the best. With the eye focus, I mash the back button, and I can. So for what I would do with that bird now, if it was on that post, I would center mass the lens on that bird, get the eye focus, and then I would just move over to the whatever direction I want. If the bird is aiming itself to the right, I want room on the right and less on the left. If the bird is positioning itself to the left, I'll do the opposite. So in this case, I would have moved over to the right more, giving it more room and having it stay on that the eye focus, but having all this much more space to the right that I had to play with, right? So it just changes the game. You can compose in camera when you just couldn't do it so easily with a non modern camera. Now that said, I've been told I need to be less of a chauvinist with the mirrorless stuff, right? Because people can't afford these things. I get it, right? It's new, it's expensive. Get it. I've made a lot of decent images with lesser machines, and it's just a game changer now. It's so much easier to pull off really spectacular images, and plus the files are just that 45 meg. Well, they're gorgeous, but the dynamic range is there, right? And they're huge, but the dynamic range is there, so you get so much more control of that image. Plus ISO, right? I don't even care about ISO anymore. I literally couldn't care less. If I shoot something at 12:8, I know with DxO Pure Raw, I'm able to run it through that quick processing. It cleans it right up, and I'm down to something where I can actually print it, right? So it's a big difference, I find. I don't miss my DSLRs at all.
Okay.
Put it that way.
All right. One more technical question. How do you set your focus tracking so the camera keeps tracking?
Oh, okay. So I set it to on Canon. I can't speak to Nikon or Nikon. I'm over in the UK now, or Sony, because I don't know how their tracking works. But I slow it down. I want to maintain focus and keep it locked. So I do on the cases for Canon. I'll take a case 2 or 4 or whatever. Whatever, not the main one is. I leave main case 1 alone, and I modify case 2 usually, and I do -1, -1, and I leave it there. That's fine. That's all you need. Kingfishers, complete opposite. I max them out to the right. I do +2, +2. Every time, because they're so bloody fast. You want to have it jumping focus, because you're not going to get it otherwise. But for slower birds, and most anything really, aside from a little bullet, you can do -1, -1 on the case 2 and just be fine. It's great.
Okay.
I can share my settings later on. Ron Bielefeld from Whistling Wings has done a great tutorial on how to set up his R5 for birds in flight. He's also made that sport shooter harness thing that I use. Fantastic piece of kit, but he's got some great videos. So Whistling Wings Photography on YouTube. If you search him, he'll show you how to set up your R5.
Okay. Maybe you can give me that link
You
later.
betcha.
And I'll include it in the show notes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So shorties, I really have grown fond of this species here. They're so cool. I mean, they fly quite a lot. At least the birds around here do, and they make a lot of eye contact, which is great for photos, right? People always think, oh, do you stand there with a bird call or waving something? No, they're flying around looking for food. It's probably not even looking directly at me, but in my general direction, it just looks like it is. So it just makes for a cool contact. I don't shoot birds in the sky unless there's a dramatic sky behind it. If there's cloud formations that are cool or something dramatic in the sky, I'll shoot it in the sky. But other than that, it's not a compelling image. Otherwise, I find it's either just blue, right? And there's nothing really interesting. I think the sky is probably more interesting than the bird in this case, but it was what's behind there really too, which I didn't include in this photo, but I have larger images of it, is the North Sea, right? So that's not land behind it. That's ocean basically, as it was flying in off the sea. Yeah, natural light. It was late in the afternoon, probably. This was December, so it was like 3, maybe 2:30 in the afternoon, because it gets really dark here quite early. And just before that last sunlight drops, it decided to have a nice little flight, and it caught a vole and then a fisticuffs with a kestrel, and subsequently lost the vole. But the sky was great, and so I was thrilled to shoot it in the sky that day, because it was that gray, purpley, pinky coolness along with the blue, and then the contrast of the bird. So it also, for a focus system like Canon or any of the DSLRs or any of the manufacturers make. They're all contrast based at the moment, and trying to shoot a short-eared owl against brown grass, which I'm sure I've got something in there shortly, is really tough because it'll latch focus, hopefully stay on the yellow of the eyes, but as the contrast drifts off into more yellowy brown grass, forget it, right? You'll lose the bird. And you have to really work at your focus in those situations by letting off the button and getting back on it quickly, right? So that it tries to find it again. That said, DSLR would nearly be impossible to do that with the older focusing systems, but the newer focusing systems make it so much easier because of that eye focus. It's just, it hits it and it stays. Yes, it will drop off in the same low contrast situations, but you can pick it up pretty quickly as opposed to not just hunting and having the lens seeking for it. So yeah, it's great. And that was a nice contrasty situation.
He's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So there's a good example of what the background actually would have been if that shorty was lower, because it's the same spot. It's a place called Bempton Cliffs in East Yorkshire. And this was a barn owl that we shot in July. It might have been July, or June or July. And miraculously, barn owls hunt in the day in this area, which is totally awesome because you don't see them very much in North America anymore, at least in where I'm from. And hunting in the daylight is nearly impossible. And even in the UK, there's differing birds. Like in this area where we were, they hunt in the day, but closer to where I am right now, found a beautiful nest later on in the fall, and got 2 or 3 shots of it in decent light, but not hunting. It caught a bull. It was amazing, but it wasn't actually doing this. It was just at the tree with a bull. But this bird, I mean, it would hunt for 5 or 6 hours. You could go there at 4 in the afternoon and stay there till 10 o'clock at night, and it would still be hunting. Right. So I mean, you just all the opportunity in the world to see this thing in great light and covering expanses of field like that and doing face dives right into it. So, you find the opportunity, put the time in, and you'll get the images you're looking for. In this case, wanted a backlit and got the backlit. So I kind of like backlit now. I never used to without mirrorless, but now I quite like it because I can manage it easier. Everything changed with mirrorless. I stopped, most people know that I was off Instagram for quite a while, and I just didn't, the passion had gone out of it a bit, right? Just shooting the same thing over and over again. But now, having the ability to be a lot more creative in camera helps a lot. So this Barney, I really quite enjoyed. I got quite a few images of it smashing its face into the floor. And then there was one, it was actually hunting for babies then. And we actually saw the baby's fledge in July. That was really cool. And the one baby flew across the field, landed in a parking lot, which was just grass, and immediately attacked by crows. And so it was just complete chaos, and everybody's worried about the poor bird, but it was fine. It's being in the moment and enjoying the experience, right? You have to think past the shot sometimes. I didn't even shoot most of that series because it was just amazing to see this little guy, first time flight out, and just seeing what the world was about and just immediately being in the shit. So it was just something else. Okay, so here we go. This is a short-eared owl coming across the sea again and getting low, getting into something different as a foreground or a background is something to try too. A lot of people just want a clear shot, but I mean, it's clear, I mean, I am shooting low through grass, but I mean, the bird is completely in focus. It just gives you a bit more context of what, say, if there was a vole, right? This is the point of view of a vole, basically waiting to be annihilated by this bird because it's coming in directly, looking for food. So it's just it's different, right? You got to start trying to try new things and try to be a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. Right.
Are you laying down for this shot?
Funny enough, no. I'm sitting on a bench. At Benton, there's these benches that people have paid for, usually people that have died, and they sponsor a bench. And I think it was on Brenda's bench. Anybody who knows Benton will know Brenda's bench. And I had on my speed shooter, sorry. And so the lens was sitting there and I saw it coming through and I just sat down and blasted through the grass or through the grass. And that was great because it did a lot of lifting. That's a wing position I normally don't love, but because it's turning, if it's turning, I'll go for that. I'll keep that one. Plus it's looking right at you coming through the bit of grass, which was I was going for. So yeah, I think it works. But normally if the wings were too high for me, I wouldn't have kept it, even if it was the turn. So that's why I liked it.
Picky.
Well, yeah. I mean, you get a million shots of something, right? And you try to. This is one of my. This was a Smithsonian one. It did pretty well. I got a honorable and short list on that one, but this was sitting at my window.
Short list on what, Mr. Maidens?
Wildlife photographer of the year.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, didn't win. I never won that one. So yeah. I'm, like I said, always the bridesmaid. But yeah, this one's just I like the expression on its face. She's just a cute bird, right? And I saw her make this one a few times. It's just different, right? It's just a boring snowy sitting there, right? But it just works. I think I call that Mona Lisa, this image, just because of the smile, right? So, and the eyes were great. I mean, that was crazy. I didn't expect that they would pop so much when I actually looked at it, because I looked at it in the back of the camera after she quit looking at me, because about 30 seconds after that, she turned right around and started looking behind. And that was the only chance I got to make that image. And, the yellow just really screams. And I quite like it against that gray blue background. So all natural light again. This was my entry to the Bird Photographer of the Year award this year, and I'm showing it because I didn't win. And I got shortlisted on it, but I didn't win. So there it is. This was a god-awful day. There was a massive snow squall coming in. And I was out back of the barn, and it got so bad I couldn't even see to get back to the house from there. I had to actually sit in the barn for quite a while to let the squall pass, because it was just brutal. But this was it just picking up. And she was sitting on he was sitting on, that's a male. He was sitting on that stump, just trying to look around before it got really bad, and decided he was going to try to eat a dove. And basically all he did was extend its wings out like that, and he picked up the wind and he just blasted off backwards. And he just kept that position all the way across. He didn't even actually turn, just floated backwards in the wind, using, smart, because it's less calories he's got to burn to get where he needs to be. Right. And that's the whole thing with them. They know what their energy level is. And if they think that they're going to be able to fill it with food, they'll expend it. And in this case, he wasn't certain, but he went for it. And I think he did get something. I don't remember. I don't ever shoot kills. But he used the wind to his advantage. And I think that was the kind of cool part of this image, is that it shows how blustery and bad it was and how he just turned and said, fine, I'll just use this today. But this is now one of my favorites. The good contrast, the good color of a male. Males are not the most common birds to get. And it's a fairly young male because he's still heavily barred, but he's getting middle-aged, I think. And if you don't know that about snowies, I'll cover that too. Females are much larger and usually more heavily barred. They'll keep the black a lot longer. As they age, their heads will go whiter, but they will keep more barring on the top. Males will usually go full white on the head, and some of the older males will go completely white. Just a little bit of scant gray, blackish brown markings in the chest once in a while and on the under wings, but they usually go pretty white. So this guy was on his way to being an adult and on his way to get some food. And this is my image I could have quit photography on 100%. This is my biggest Nat Geo published one. It's the most viewed snowy owl photo ever, too. I think it's over 100 million views at Nat Geo right now. But what had happened was, that's a farmer's furrow that looks like a little river there, but it's a furrow that the farmer had plowed into the field. And what had happened is, this was, I can't remember the time of year it was. This was 2012. And it was a flash melt. Really heavy snow that year, flash melt. And what happens is the voles and the mice build nests in the snow and in the banks of the furrows. Like you can see that it looks like a riverbank, and they'll build little holes into those areas and live in them all winter, just channeling in and out when they need to get out for food. And there's little paths and whatnot that they build in them. And so it was seeing the voles and the mice trying to escape from the holes, right? And thinking, okay, this is cool. Let's see what happens. And I saw her sitting on a fence post quite far distance away. And I saw her head bobbing up and down when these voles were trying to escape through the water and up the banks. And all of a sudden I saw her take off. I thought, there's no way she's going to pull out of the water. It's not possible. And sure enough, she took a mouse. No, it was a vole, trying to swim across the water. I thought, oh, wow, okay, that's something I've never seen before, ever. And so I took that shot. After the second or third time I saw her do it, thinking it was impossible, but they're smart. They take advantage of the opportunity. And she kept going for it, and it lasted 2 days. And I bet I took 12 or 13 decent shots of her hunting that way in the water. And I called this one catch but no release, because catch and release fishing. Obviously not fishing, but she nailed the vole. And I caught the splash, I caught the lift off, and the look in the eye. And I was sitting on a bucket, not too far from the side of the one furrow, and she just kept coming into that same area distance, and it was just magic, right? I could have quit right then and there after this image, because I don't think I will ever repeat or come close to that type of uniqueness again. When I published it, Nat Geo messaged me right away saying, "What's the story with this one? Let's see your raws, pal," because they thought it was fake. And so I sent them the raws, and it's basically, that's the image. There's really next to no processing done on it, because with Nat Geo, they don't allow it. Right? You need to get it right, or they don't publish it. Because they're world renowned for being accurate. That's their thing. They want accuracy and pureness in the images. So sent them the raws, and they were like, wow, we've never seen this before. And then I've had Cornell contacted me out of that to say, where is this place? We need to come see this. And so the Cornell folks came, and yeah, it was a whole deal for a couple of weeks. They didn't get to see it again, but the 2014 had happened again. So it's just luck of the draw at that one spot, right? It's just the way the furrows go, and if the magic thaw happens, and then they see what they see, and they go for it. They're not a stupid animal. So I didn't get any good shots of it that year because it was so dark all the time. But that day was just unbelievable. Couldn't have asked for it. Yeah, I absolutely couldn't have asked for anything better. But now it's because of PowerPoint and trying to put it into that little space. It's wingtips are clipped off, and you're not seeing the full bottom of it. But I can send you that too. I've published it on my IG, so it's on there if you want to see the full one.
It's way deep down in your feed though, so you'll just have to send it to me.
Okay.
I'll wedge it in.
Okay.
Here. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's stick it in there. I was thinking I probably should rehash some of my old photos that people might not have seen before and just start republishing them.
Sure.
Jan Wegener said that's what he does. So I thought, well, he's got 1 million followers. Well, I'll do that too. Why not? With my few that I keep losing. Anyhow, my IG reach is like T-Rex arms anymore. So yeah. So this image is probably my proudest snowy photo moment.
This is early on. This is when we were talking about camouflage, and Barbara. That's okay. So Barbara snuck this in after we moved on. So her question is: if the photographer is not in camo, what is the advantage to covering a gray lens in camo?
So there's thermal challenges that you can run into. There's been an article and a video posted the past couple of weeks about heat shimmer with using warm lenses in the winter. I messaged him and saying, "Oh, I could fix that problem for you." And basically, what I would do is I would keep my gear in the back of my Jeep all winter long. I would take my cards in, my batteries, and that was it. And I'd leave them cold the entire span of the winter. And I wouldn't, if I was in my vehicle, I wouldn't put my heat on, which is crazy in minus 30. But I mean, if you know electronics at all, you get condensation, and you would get very condensed. Rachel knows, she's been on my Jeep. It's cold, and you get condensation, and you get potential for heat shimmer. So if you keep the lenses cold, they don't produce that as much. So putting that reflective quality on the lens, like Canon, yes, they're white already, so you really don't run into that too much. But for me, putting the cover on is just purely for protection, because they get banged around and whatnot. And I'd rather $100 cover be torn up than a $20,000 lens, right? So, it doesn't make a lot of sense to not protect your investment in that respect. That's the only reason I have it. If you want, you can get the black lens coat or the white lens coat, but they get dirty so easily that I don't know, it's just aesthetically not nice. That's the only reason I put camo on there at all.
Okay.
Other than that, it makes no difference.
Okay. Carolyn had a question. If you had only one opportunity to shoot an owl, would you ever shoot in auto?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. If it was the only opportunity I ever had, yeah, absolutely. I'd probably make a really crap image, but I mean, still, I would try. I mean, yeah. You don't take the shot, you don't get the shot, right? So,
yeah. Say it again.
I do shoot manual though.
Yeah.
So I tried it. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Maidens, Dr. Maidens, actually. You want to leave us with a gem? Anything that you want to close us out with?
Well, I've really gone on for an hour here, haven't I? The kissy face sound. A lot of people get annoyed by people that use bird calls, and I do too. But and I only use the sound if the bird is not if I just knew that they've hunted and they're just looking around, then I don't mind using it. But if they've not moved in a long time, I won't do it, because it's just getting them up and potentially active for no reason. But I'll make a really like a sound, and they'll tend to look and give you the eye contact. And I only do it like once or twice, and then they stop, because I don't want them to think that there's food there that's not, and lift off. But it's not a thing that I consider a problem if you don't abuse it. And I'm not one for bird calls, but that's not the only thing I'll do to get attention.
Okay.
In real life too, I'll walk around the streets doing it too. So I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So let me just close out this session by first saying thank you for doing this, because now it is close to 3 a.m. your time, maybe a little bit past 3 a.m. So 2:47. And I appreciate you doing this, because I know you've had opportunities to do other people's programs, and for whatever reason, you chose to be mine. I'm your pal. I'm super excited that I am. And, this goes back to 2017. I had just started getting into Instagram, and I had started a nature page on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And you were one of the first birders that I started following, just because I'd never seen a snowy owl. And I don't know, somewhere along the way, I got comfortable enough to send you a message, or we started chatting. And you had introduced me to baiting and looking for photos where people were baiting kingfishers. We mentioned those earlier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'd never heard. Yeah. But I had never heard of such a thing, and it was appalling. And just over the last couple of years, I've really gotten into bird photography, and I don't want to blame you for that.
No, but you've really gotten quite good too, I have to say.
But thank you. But I've really enjoyed it, and it's a learning process. And I thought I knew a few things, but every day I learn something different, and I see another bird that I have never heard of before. So for that, thank you for helping me along the way. And something else too. Recently, we had a conversation about me wanting to kind of pursue more of an interest in really teaching and doing more bird photography. And right off the bat, you said, I'll teach you anything you want to know. And for that, I'm just very grateful, Vince. And
anytime.
I really, really respect you.
Thank you.
Likewise,
obviously.
We joke a whole lot, but I really do respect you a whole lot. And guys, if you're not following him on Instagram, please go look up his feed is at Vince Maidens. And you hinted, so I'm just you opened the door, but you said that you might be doing workshops at some point.
I might be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So getting where I feel comfortable doing it. And I mean, you just can't guarantee that people are going to get the shots they want. But I mean, if I think that if people were to come out with me, they'd have a good chance as any. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to say.
And so how are they going to find out when you start doing these? Will your website be up and running?
Yes, it will. I'm working on it now, Linda. Thank you. Yeah, it definitely will be.
I love the power of the mic and making you like cringe.
I'm committing.
I know. Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm committing, and definitely will do that. Yeah, I'll put it on my IG. I'll do website proper things. All those adult things that one does.
Well, thank you, sir, for doing this. With that, I'm going to close out this session. You guys, again, you can connect with Vince through his website, vincemaidensphotography.com. And on Instagram, if you just need a dose of beautiful, beautiful birds and funny commentary, please check out his Instagram page at Vince Maidens. Next week, Lawrence Lederman will return to the Happiness Hour to present Overlanding Photography Part 2. Lawrence was here last summer, and he introduced us to what overlanding is and how he turned this lifestyle into a successful photography business. You can catch session 64 on the YouTube channel. So until next time, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.